journey. So starting from when we started, I think we were in few cities in India, and from there growing to like almost every city. At some point of time, I guess we were in more than 400 towns and cities in India, and now to like over 50 countries across Europe, Asia, North America, South America. It has been a great journey.
Because for a company that's growing so aggressively, you would imagine that there is, all sorts of money being spent on acquiring customers.
Yeah, I see a lot of friends and family in India. At least people are not that conservative, or maybe not that cautious about downloading a new app. Relatively, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. While in the international markets, definitely people don't prefer downloading an app if they are not very comfortable with the brand.
But here, families with leisure behavior. Be family was a kind of persona, leisure was a kind of behavior, which means you might have 7 kinds of personas and 8 kind of behaviors, and this becomes 56 segments. Hi and welcome to one more episode of the State of Retention Marketing Podcast. Today is an exciting day for us. It's a very popular consumer brand that we've pretty much all heard of, and a brand that has been not around for a long time. It's been a relatively recent affair, but a fairly good brand at that. OYO. I'm sure all of you have heard of this. Today we have with us Nikhil. Thank you for doing this, Nikhil.
Thanks.
Nikhil leads the online growth for the entire international operation at OYO, and you spent 8 years at OYO, which is a fairly long time in the company's journey. It's pretty much since the inception, early days?
Yeah, maybe around 1.5 years later. The company got started in 2013, late 2013.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of the evolution of the business itself, the model, the way you looked at growth, it's been a fairly interesting journey, a very aggressive one. You were pretty much riding, a tiger or a soft bank and like aggressively growing there, right? And then there was a course correction in between, and there were some decisions that had to be taken differently. Would love for you to point out the key milestones in the journey that you've had in the last 8 years, from your own roles perspective, as well as how the company's play looked at that point.
So from my journey perspective, as I said, I started in operations, and that time everything was in-house as part of our customer service team, and I got involved with that team because coming from an hospitality, service was pretty critical. Have set up a bunch of processes there, scaled there. At that time, we also used to see customer service from a revenue perspective, because in India, people have a habit of calling up for making a booking. So that was also a sizable chunk of revenue for us. From there, we started going omni-channel. So we started building our offline sales team. I've done that for a couple of years. And then from there, I moved into growth and marketing side. So first couple of years, it was for India market. And then early 2020, I moved into the international side of things. So my journey at international completely overlapped actually with the COVID thing as well. I just moved to international before COVID and has been doing that for now 2.5 years. So that has been a great journey. So starting from when we started, I think we were in few cities in India, and from there growing to like almost every city. At some point of time, I guess we were in more than 400 towns and cities in India, and now to like over 50 countries across Europe, Asia, North America, South America. It has been a great journey.
Very interesting ride. And all of 10 years, right?
Absolutely correct, yes.
Amazing. So from the key milestones within OYO's journey in this course, where the step changes happened essentially, would you be able to pinpoint some of those for us?
There were 3 step changes. One was around 2015 when I joined actually. That time I was like part of that step change process where we were aggressively expanding across multiple cities in India. Before that, I think we were only part in Delhi NCR. We had a bunch of hotels which we were running. And it was more like a check of product market fit. And once we had there, we have scaled it to like more than 200 cities within a span of 6 to 7 months actually. Wow. So that was one big journey, like OYO becoming a household name. Like you can see a OYO property across whenever you travel. So that was one big piece for us. The second, I'll say, was somewhere around 2019 or 18, sort of a late 2018, early 2019, where we went aggressive on our international expansion again. So that was from a personal perspective as well. It was pretty satisfying to see when OYO hotels are in all major locations, in our internal WhatsApp groups. Like it was like every other week there a country being launched. Now OYO in London, OYO in New York, etc., etc. So that was again a very second important milestone. And then third, I'll say it was a post-COVID sort of a thing. This is now very different from the expansion side of things. This was more on the consolidation and profitability and how those sort of things we have grown pretty fast, and now how to like maybe remove the fat and like make it more profitable and consolidate. So that was a pretty important milestone. Yeah, I think, and that has been for all the companies actually. First you grow and then you just course correct. Yeah.
Fair. In fact, on that note, on this whole cutting the flab and getting more lean about it, we use a term called hyperscaling, but responsibly in some fashion. And what I heard from our prior conversation, Nikhil, is around the fact that on the customer side of things, you were never really irresponsible. While you've grown really aggressively, there's a fairly responsible set of choices made from a ROAS/customer acquisition and those components. I would love for you to delve into that practice of what it was, how it started, where it became, let's say, a big part of your everyday affair, and then onwards the evolution.
Yeah, so from a has been part of the growth marketing side of things, and there was no conversation or no reviews where, let's say, CAC or any ROAS was not a part of the discussion. It has been always very critical and core to all our acquisition strategy. Sure. Maybe a bit of nature of the industry and how we were also culturally we were set up, at least on the consumer side of things. The intent was that within 30 days of install, when a user has been acquired, we should break even. We should have the LTV by CAC with the 30-day LTV by CAC. That should we should break even, and beyond that, it's let's say the profits which we are making. So I'll say, and also led by the supply density which we have built, that was also driving our repeats as well as our organic growth in a way, because hotels is a physical asset business. There is a hotel, there is a board, and that itself is a branding which drives acquisition sort of a thing. So I'll say at that point of time, around 70% of our revenue used to come from repeat users, and rest more than 20% actually was through organic. So it was always less than 10% of our revenue was driven by paid, and rest was from repeat plus organic. And that is, I'm talking about 2018-19 period, like where world was going on steroids. Yeah, correct.
So
at that time we
this would mean that in some sense, you had a disciplined cap on your ROAS, so to speak, and not just CAC. Absolutely. And you mentioned 30-day value, which means automatically there's a certain degree of pressure on the quality of customers being acquired.
Absolutely.
But did that not come in the way of growth at some point, or was it always a conscious choice that we are okay to grow slower but controlled?
Not exactly, because our growth levers were not only customer acquisition. Supply played a major role, even in like it was a trickle down effect. When our supply grew, our consumers also followed accordingly, because when we were opening up new cities, we were getting certain new acquisitions. That time, I'll say the network effect started kicking in. A user who is like books only in Delhi, when we opened, let's say, a smaller town like a Panipat or Sonipat, so the same user, when he travels to Panipat and Sonipat, when he sees that OYO is there, he books that as well. So from a supply perspective, that network effect start kicking in on the consumer side as well. That was one thing which drove things. And otherwise, some other channels like referrals was a pretty important growth channel for us. We have all those virality around referrals, etc. Because now here we are getting acquisition from our own customers only. Yeah, definitely we incentivize them in terms of discounts and some other goodies. But still, that was a very cost-efficient channel for us. So we have never gone berserk on Google and Facebook sort of thing, to be honest. Yeah.
Which is, to be honest, a revelation for me in that sense, because for a company that's growing so aggressively, you would imagine that there is, all sorts of money being spent on acquiring customers.
Yeah, correct.
And that brings me to the whole side of growth as an organization. What kind of people setup exists? What are the different responsibilities here, skill sets here? How do you really look at what are the metrics that you chase? So let's get to the people part and we'll get to the rest.
So on the people side, we were always a little mindful of that. We were not hiring in general. So not just, let's say, in our acquisition team, it was not that we are hiring pure performance marketers who have just done pure performance marketing, like a Google geek sort of a guy. We have never hired such people. It was always someone who has definitely a deep understanding of data, but who is also has an element of, I'll call it maybe a bit of generalist sort of thing, who has that overall business acumen and the P&L thinking. It's not his life doesn't stop, let's say, at CAC. It's not about हाँ ये transaction मैं ले आया at last click attribution से and my life is done.
Sure.
So our thinking, and that is where the 30-day ROAS thinking
Yeah.
and everything came into the picture. So the thinking has to be always a overall P&L led and not just about ROIs or CAC. And because what I've seen, this metric in our thing where maybe the attribution is always, let's say, a bit fuzzy, sort of a thing. If you just maybe hold one team accountable only in terms of attribution, the things won't add up. For example, I'll say a user who has, let's say, we have acquired through Google marketing, okay, that has not transacted today. Maybe we have sent a push notification, our retention team has sent a push notification, he has clicked on that notification and has then made a transaction, let's say, for example, okay. Now the thing will be, at least from a dashboarding perspective, because there is a last click paid attribution, the acquisition team will also take it as ki we have got this transaction, versus the retention team will also take it that we have sent up the notification, we have got this transaction.
Yeah.
But at end of the day, the company or the business has got only one transaction, it's not two.
Sure.
So the thinking has to be pretty holistic in that term. So from a KPIs perspective, it has always been, we have more into revenue sort of a thing and less of any intermediate KPI sort of a thing. So that is how we have built the team. Definitely there have been one or two subject matter experts, maybe at a junior level or at an entry level.
Sure. So you have this bunch who is running performance marketing while being cognizant of the 30-day ROAS. Who are the other key stakeholders in this game?
So broadly, how our team has been divided, you can put it in. So there is an acquisition team which runs in a way which is responsible for driving overall traffic, both on app and web actually. Also, call center is an important channel for us, so a bit on the call center side as well, but largely on app and web. So they are responsible for the performance marketing. They are responsible for organic marketing around SEO, etc. So those are the things which this team manages. Then we have a retention team. We call it a CRM team as well. So they manages all the channels, basically all the customer communication from email, notification, WhatsApp. That design team also sits under the retention team because they are the major user of the design team. But so performance marketing creatives are also in a way gets created by this team. This also helps us, all the creatives are in sync, what they are using on our Google platforms or Facebook platforms, even what we run on our platforms are also completely are in sync. So this too becomes the important teams. In parallel, we also have a small partnership team, which are more into the third, right, from banking partnerships or any other sort of a thing. So we have a one or two guy there depending on the scale and various times. We have, I said, we have a call center team as well. So there is a call center operations team as well, which rolls up to me.
Yes. So what we hear pretty often is this whole aspect of a growth team, which does have a hand from product and engineering as well. Because generally speaking, when you're trying to set up retention campaigns, a lot of stuff is expected to get automated instead of being manual. And if it's dependent on product, which is outside of this unit with a different set of KPIs, it gets harder. How do you address this?
So definitely, I'll not say that it's not hard. Definitely, all the organization goes into that tech prioritization. And so we have a central tech and product team. Within the central tech and product team, there are various product managers for consumer products, for patron products, basically the owner products, the CX side of things, everything. So while the overall structure of tech and product is independent of this, but we do work pretty closely. Some of the KPIs are owned jointly. We are part of, let's say, common reviews at times. For example, things like platform conversion.
That's what we'll get to.
Product has a big role to play here. So if, let's say, all those annual operating plan around conversion and everything, we do joint planning, all sort of things. But there is a stakeholder.
You did mention, Nikhil, a little bit about the overall scheme of things on how revenue is split across different properties. Maybe a good idea to kind of go over that once, because then we'll delve a little deep into how each of those components work. So
we are primarily a very app-driven organization, at least in India markets. Okay, so our core home markets, which is India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and all that. So our 65 to 70% of our business comes through our own application. And remaining 30 comprises of our website, our call center, a bit of offline element, a bit of online travel agencies, etc. So that's everything combined is 30%. But this is more on the India, Indonesia sort of business, more what we call as INSEA, India and Southeast Asia.
Sure.
When we see the international side of markets, there the equation is a bit different. For in US, web and app is a 50-50 split for us.
Okay.
And call center is also sizable. So that's a bit of surprise to me when I started into that market. Even the people, or maybe the kind of customer we deal with, like they are more of road trippers and all that. So yeah, when they are on the highway, they are just comfortable and calling and booking a room. So call center is also sizable revenue for us. In UK, it is like 80% web is there, only 20% is app for us.
And this is web as in laptop web or mobile web?
Largely mobile web, but in UK again, desktop web is also fairly
Meaningful.
Sizable. Yeah, it's meaningful.
Interesting.
In all other market, desktop web is like almost negligible for us.
I would imagine so. But is this to do with the fact that this is in UK, is this a higher end property which is not on the go and it's a pre-planned booking?
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis here?
So in UK, it's a pre-planned booking. We get a lot of international travelers in UK.
Sure.
So again, it's a driven by nature of market. So when there is let's say people from peripheral countries, European countries who are traveling, they don't have OYO app for that matter because we are not present from a hotels business there. So they search us on Google and through our performance marketing. I think they find us through those things. So the international travel, and secondly, it's pre-planned. So in our booking window in UK is like around 30-day plus. So more than 50% of our customers book like before a month. While in India and even in US, 60 to 70% of our users book on the same day.
So looking at this consumer journey, maybe we can pick up a geography as an example. Let's start with, you spent time in India, so I'll pick that up as a first step. Is the need of booking, and then I'm going to go search on Google / do I already know OYO, so I'll look for the app, install the app, and then go about this? Or I'll make my first booking from the mobile web, and then if I see it happening more often, I'll install the app?
No. So in our case, definitely website is an exploratory channel. We are a lot of users who comes there, they are just exploring, maybe someone who is new to the brand. There also we have all sort of nudges for moving that user to app. We do communicate that you will get better deals, etc., etc. We do communicate the app benefits to them. But having said that, still how the market is, the people do search for our basically OYO app on the Play Store itself and download. So the user journey is not that they will always start from, or the majority of them will start from web and then maybe they'll make a transaction and then maybe from second transaction they move to app. That's not the case for majority of them. People are comfortable in downloading an app for even newer
brand
brands.
is better known, hence people know that, okay, this is what I want, then this is probably what I
think, and maybe it's a bit of anecdotal, when I see a lot of friends and family in India, at least people are not that conservative or maybe not that cautious about downloading a new app, relatively maybe. While in the international markets, definitely people don't prefer downloading an app if they are not very comfortable with the brand. India, there are newer brands. I see apps of various phones of various friends, family, and I see very new apps in their phones, which I have even not heard of being.
There are D2C brands which have like once in a 4 month use case, and they have apps which people seem to install. So your category is a need-oriented category in some sense, and you said this is tonight booking, which is a dominant part of the use case, which means, is there a way to engineer customer behavior, or are you like going to just sit, wait, and watch what happens?
No. So I'll say over time, actually, we have built a lot. We have not just captured the existing market on the travel or even the business travel sort of a thing. We have also created new use cases. For example, when I said it's a last minute booking sort of a thing, so there are various things around, like in India, we have people booking on game nights, like today's a World Cup match or a football match, and there are a bunch of 3-4 friends, they book a hotel and they stay there. For example, so I'll say we used to do a D-Day sale. It was more like a post 7 p.m. liquidation sort of a sale. We call it as happy hours. And we have pretty interesting use cases based on the consumer insight. So on the weekends, some of our last minute inventory, we position itself as a competitor to any app-based taxi. You will travel, let's say you will pay $600-700 and travel to your home. There is an alternative. You can, at the same price, just for now, you can sleep at an OYO near you. if you are late at office, maybe you are like there till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., there's a month ending sort of a thing. You can just book an OYO nearby, you can stay there, and next day morning, anyways, you need to come. So we have also catered to our price points and our density, basically the availability has helped us create those demands, and that has really helped us in maybe a bit of driving those last minute behaviors as well.
So there seems to be a lot of very tactical kind of thoughts which would have its own share of geographic implications as well in some sense. And from a communication stack perspective and who writes and how does it get structured, is there a lot of automation and triggering involved, or is there a lot of intelligent copywriting that plays a dominant role? How does this work for you?
So yeah, definitely a lot of automation is there.
Yeah.
So our entire trigger journey is like completely automated. We do revisit it. We do track all the CTRs and everything. And then when we start seeing a bit of decay, we revisit the copies and what more can we add there. So on the trigger side, everything is automated. On the promotion,
what kind of triggers would this be? Because that's where it could always get either a user event trigger or a business event trigger. A new property launch in my area could be trigger.
Yeah, so here by trigger, I mean it's largely a user action driven trigger. Like someone has dropped off from a PDP page, or someone has seen a city and has dropped off, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Those sort of triggers. On the promotional side of things, there are, I'll say, two sort of things. One is definitely we do schedule our campaigns. It's not completely automated in that sense. But yeah, we do plan that what are the events which will be coming. And so we have a process of making a full month calendar actually.
Okay.
Basis whatever, if there are bigger events like we had Father's Day recently, let's say there is a Raksha Bandhan, there is a Diwali or whatever it is. So every month we get one or two events, small, big, etc. And riding on those events, basically, we do plan our things and how we can, integrate those events into a travel use case or a hotel use case for that matter. And that is how we do our communication and schedule our campaigns. Definitely, copy has a big role to play because that is where the integration around why on a Father's Day, why I'm sending you a hotel notification. It has to integrate that, gift your father a holiday sort of a thing, or a staycation or whatever those things are. So copy definitely has a big role to play on these things.
Very simply, in broad terms, what would be the split of volume of communications between automated triggered versus promotional scheduled?
So if I'll just talk from a per user perspective, okay, if you have taken an action today, definitely you will be getting more of the trigger notifications. So we are structured like maybe once you drop off, we will send you a notification. One maybe we'll send you after a few hours around that. And there are thinking around that, some around price or offers. We communicate price. Sometimes we try to create some bit of urgency that the rooms are getting sold and those sort of things. So if you've taken an action, then definitely the volume of trigger, because trigger has better CTRs, trigger has better funnel. So definitely for us, that endeavor has always been there. How can we increase the share of triggered notification? But there is only some number of people. Yeah, correct. So that's the thing. And promotional, maybe one or two notifications, depending if there is a season sort of a thing, or if there is a pressure, like I said, it's a 70-80% D-Day sort of a thing.
Yeah.
If we are seeing 3 p.m., maybe the booking window is not just kicked in. Definitely we go a bit aggressive on that, but we always need to be mindful between revenue and customer experience in that case.
Fair enough. And now just in terms of how the communications get segmented and personalized, because at some point you're dealing with so many different geographies, its own set of nuances and complications, right? And if you were to keep segmenting this even by city, you have 400 odd cities to deal with.
Yeah.
How do you navigate these situations?
So we do largely from a behavioral perspective that we have a very so we have our journeys are split into, let's say, for a new user the journey is a bit different. Maybe for a repeat user the journey is a bit different. We also play with around user persona. Basis their use cases, we have created certain rules to identify the user persona, whether it's like a individual business, solo business traveler, it's like a leisure family sort of a thing. Maybe it's a couple who are just booking for spending some private time, etc. So we have created those personas basis their past behavior, basis various user interviews. We have been able to identify what type of behavior this user should do, and that is what we communicate. Less on the city piece, because it's the variability on it just creates a lot of complexity on things. The city piece or the geo things come into play let's say during summer vacations, leisure becomes a big thing. And then we go, let's say for people in North India, we try to pitch Himachal or an Uttarakhand sort of a thing. In winters, we'll try to pitch Rajasthan or those sort of things. During weekends, we maybe push on the weekend getaway sort of a thing. But otherwise, like I said, our again journey is around 70-75% D-Day, and it's a very local use case sort of a thing. Like I said, game nights, parties, etc., etc. So it's always been very local sort of a thing. So it's not very nuanced at the city level, 365 days a year.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the persona side of things as the starting point of the segmentation. That determines how many segments will you cut into and what kind of messaging will go.
Yes.
So within that segment, of course, if you know that these are people who've done a game night kind of setup before, then they're probably appropriate the next time there's an IPL happening. So that can kind of be scheduled in advance and get executed.
Yes.
But from a expansion of that use case, and then when you have to, let's say, proposal Himachal, would you end up creating a segment for North India and saying that all of you should go to Himachal, or how does this get sliced or cut any further? Because what I need to worry about is the moment you start segmenting, it gets fragmented and very complex to handle.
Correct. So we have one like thumb rule sort of a thing when we create any sort of segment. The size of the segment should at least be, let's say, 15-20% of my overall segment. Otherwise, it's not meaty enough even if it drives enough value. So we don't go too niche on any particular thing. So let's say for Himachal sort of a thing. And we also have a overall frequency capping. Like if there are users who falls into multiple segments, definitely shouldn't be getting too many communication. I think these are pretty hygiene things. But yeah, so again, it's a very seasonal sort of a thing. For example, we will communicate, let's say, Himachal holiday to the entire North India segment during summers, okay? And then definitely the overall picture around so maybe between them, the family side of things who have shown leisure behavior before, definitely they will get a bit more, a lot more communications around that. But yeah, the other one will get maybe around not
You said this in one sentence, but you have families with leisure behavior. To me, family was a kind of persona, leisure was a kind of behavior, which means you might have 7 kinds of personas and 8 kind of behaviors, and this becomes 56 segments.
No. What I'm saying is, let's say for the leisure side of things, okay? So we do create the entire, let's say, North India segment where we'll be pitching the overall leisure, or for that matter, Himachal, will be pitching to everyone. But in this segment, even those users will come in who have not maybe booked a Himachal for us before. Okay. So it's not that we will be keep on bombarding those users with the Himachal thing for the overall summer vacations. That is not how we do it. It's just then those things come into the picture. People who have, let's say, a daily user, we do have locations, we do pick locations. The user who has booked, let's say, a Shimla or any other city for that matter, if you have booked Shimla, this time maybe we'll be pitching you a Dehradun or a Mussoorie for that matter. Then those plays come into the picture.
So this is kind of where I would love to zoom in a little bit, Nikhil, that when you look at somebody's book, Shimla needs to get this, and you have 400 cities, it can get fairly complex fairly quickly unless you have some sort of a rule engine running that, okay, if this, then that, on a data level.
Correct. So I think it's also a bit of, I'll say, data/judgment. So how does data come into the picture? For every city, for example, for Shimla, we do have data that what are the feeder cities of Shimla. Okay. We see, let's say, around, for example, I'm just making this up, 40% of our daily users, if 100 users book in Shimla, 40 are from Delhi, 30 are, let's say, from Lucknow, 20 are from anywhere else for that matter. So this becomes pretty important feeder cities for us, and that is the cities where we actually leverage for, let's say, pushing people for Shimla. When I say 400 cities, definitely then the scale things come to. So we don't have similar scale in all 400 cities. So definitely the bigger ones is what move the needle. And so we'll pitch people for Shimla. We won't push people, let's say, for Parwanu. Maybe we have a couple of hotels.
Just from a pure play retention perspective, now somebody who's just been transacting twice a month vis-a-vis somebody who's transacted twice a month but now not doing it anymore, are these topics that are dealt with within the scheme of things that you have, that okay, people are going to get their city level notification anyway, and that should get whatever response that needs to get. So you don't need to do something separately. Or how do you look at this?
I'll not say they are not dealt with. Again, there are only a number of things which you can do at a time. So yeah, so like during peak travel months, definitely this not we do index a bit on those things, but yeah, there are separate projects at time which we do run for resurrecting our dormant users, etc. The focus is more on how do we predict that behavior that maybe now this user, I'm not saying that we are already there,
Sure.
but the intent is how can we predict that this user might get dormant now, or maybe if he is through certain maybe data science behavior rules, now with AI come into the picture and all sort of things, how can predict? Because we've seen once the user has churned, now winning that user back is definitely, the meat is not there. I'll not say that we have got great success there. Definitely we have not lost that battle or given up there, but yeah, I've never seen a huge success.
But in your
there.
case, this would be app uninstall, or this would just be stopping bookings, or what would this mean?
Both actually. So we do track our uninstalls numbers, and then we trigger survey that why people have uninstalled and all those sort of things. And so there is a work stream around that. But yeah, so at a regular level, uninstall is that trigger. We get that event, and there is a email setup for that where users will get it via uninstall, and we get it's a free text sort of a thing. So that is always there. But yeah, when a user has stopped, maybe when opening the app or transacting, those layers we do see as an L2, L3. Usually when people have stopped making a transaction, most of them usually uninstall the app at that time.
And this might have to do with their lack of need or a negative experience, or some of those related
multiple
factors.
things. Definitely negative experience one thing, lack of need is definitely there. At times we are also the culprit. There are too much notifications comes into the play.
But and in the mobile app ecosystem, if you were to really talk about the engagement with the application, the whole monthly active users, daily active users, is that a metric that is of relevance?
Yeah, absolutely. So daily active users is like bread and butter. Like every day, the first thing when I start my day, the first thing is like D-1 we see what was the traffic, what was the conversion, what is the number of transactions which we have got, and definitely the resultant revenue from that. So that is like the first thing. So daily active user is pretty important. That is where the things start. Monthly active users, definitely it is important. We have in our dashboards, but I'll not say that we fret too much over it. We are, daily active user is what something is pretty important.
So wondering about if abandons and the number of times the users open the application to look for something and then he's not made a booking, would that be an indicator of how many needs and opportunities existed in? If out of them you got, let's say 40%, then that's an indicator of your wallet share. Is that a way to look at it?
Yeah, definitely. So what percentage of users who are coming onto our PDP page, and then how many of them are booking with us? Yeah, definitely that is something pretty important thing.
Sure.
But from a immediate actionable idea perspective, we do get in data. Let's say 40% of users have abandoned their journey and have not ended up making a transaction. And then we have rules that what are the various things on a PDP page, why people might not have booked. Largely we have seen it's around pricing, sometimes around payment flexibilities becomes a very important thing, because that is the type of clientele we deal with, the types of ratings and reviews and all sort of things. So those are some of the things which we do, that what are the properties where these cases are happening more, where people are coming and then maybe they're dropping off. And then, definitely we take care of that. But so there is no such survey or anything of that perspective, like if an X user have dropped off and why it has dropped off, that data doesn't fit into it at a particular user level.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So there is the tactical side of understanding the implications of these drop-offs. Okay, these are the 5 possible reasons, and you might take qualitative stances on fixing those topics at whatever levels. And on the other side, you have a fairly tight follow-through mechanism to recover that. Right? So I'll come to this whole part of when you look at retention and you look at user engagement components, these are ultimately interventions you make in order to get a guy back in some fashion. If he's transacted, then more transactions. If he's not transacted, then that transaction, right? So from that lens, and you have a funnel, which is the whole cart funnel, PDP and onwards. Could you help us run through that funnel and what are the different interventions you make to optimize that whole flow?
So see, from a PDP side, whenever we see the single most important thing which leads to significant delta is our payment flexibility. How we have built our businesses around, it's pay at hotel business. You make a transaction, you don't need to pay anything right now, and you directly pay while checking at the hotel. And that is, you can pay via cash, card, whatever. Basically for us, it's like cash at hotel, what we call it.
But this automatically means free cancellations, or does it not?
It means free cancellation in a way. So this is like the most important and loved USP, if I'll say, for our type of clientele.
Automatically a bunch of casual bookings or not really?
It do, but yeah, we have
You
that
don't run
tight
out of
inventory
inventory?
management sort of things that, yeah, so we have, if someone is booked with us, there is a process that after a few hours for a D-Day booking, we do check with them that whether
They
you'll be
come in.
coming or not. So we have those processes. We have seen that conscious calls have already been made. So first we try to push prepaid that, yeah, users, because that has again solves a bunch of problems for us. But we have seen from a net revenue level, when we push pay at total, basically when we find gives that payment flexibility, that is our user loved us basically. I'll say when we push prepay, like force prepay, what we call it as, that there is no way you can book a pay at total booking, our conversions drop to 1/3 of where it is currently today.
But this also might have to do with the genuineness of the booking, right?
Yeah, so no.
Is there a lot of cancellation rate in the
Yeah,
other
definitely. So what we measure is what we call a C cross R, that is conversion multiplied by realization. That is what percentage of users we have created, and so that is what the metric. So C cross R for post-pay booking is still significantly better than those of prepay bookings.
Okay. So which means that it's okay to let people pay at hotel.
Absolutely.
It's net beneficial.
And it's significant. It's not just incremental, it's significant for us. So we do push for prepay, but that's a bit on the optional side of things. And there are certain rules. When we see any, what should I say, fraudulent sort of a behavior, or during peak seasons when our inventory is about to get sold out, if huge demand again, like for leisure locations, for 31st December night and all sort of things, then it's fine. We
Is
do
this
make a
have to do
forced
with
prepay
when you say fraudulent behavior, that might be a cohort of users which is demonstrated that?
Correct.
So when we see that this would change for that segment and not everywhere else?
Yes. So it's like a user cross property sort of a thing when we try to push prepay. If a user who has, let's say, booked 5 times, again I'm making up this number, is booked 5 times and he has never ended up staying with us. So we do, and there is a rule through automation, these users are now shown prepay properties forever.
This sounds pretty simple, but I can understand the complexity of how the data flows behind this work. Would you be able to break this down for us as to where is this segment of fraudulent users created? Is there a rule which says that people who stayed or booked 5 times but never really stayed get classified under a high-risk user group? And then that goes back into a system which is doing the sorting algorithm or filtering algorithm and what properties to show to them.
Correct.
And I mean, this is still a part of the product itself, I would imagine.
It's completely part of the product. It's completely part of the product. We have built this flow with the help of our product teams actually. So we identify, and definitely the optimization around that is definitely, we always do that what percentage of user, that 5 should be the right number or 4 should be the right number, and a lot of data thinking and everything goes around that. But so this is how we try to save the inventory and make it sellable for the users who are more, I'll call it as maybe serious around the use case sort of a thing. So those things.
But that's only one lens now, and that opens up the whole possibility of which other customer segment-led behaviors tend to get personalized in the application again. Because you said that people have a high chance of not coming through, might not see pay at hotel. But that's just one use case. Are there several such use cases which are then gotten back to the product team to have a more segmented kind of app experience? Yeah, so we have tried various things, some of them. So once we have tried also around the visibility of our offers, etc., or what type of default coupon should be there. There are people we have seen who comes to our PDP page and drops off, and maybe we have identified if we show like there is a tray, the coupon tray basically, where people needs to apply a coupon, and there is no coupon which is visible there. There are a segment of users who drops off from there, and they comes across, okay, there is a coupon called tray. There must be some coupon somewhere which I have not been able to see, and then they've gone and maybe seeing through various deals on various coupon websites and all sort of things. And in that case, we end up losing some bit of conversion as well, because now the journey is not well. Well, there is definitely a segment of users who are not that offer sensitive, I'll call it. Maybe chahiye, I'll just need this tonight. Correct.
So when those sort of thinking has come there, so people through these rules, people who have shown such behaviors in past, who is like very coupon lover sort of users, definitely for them we do in that coupon tray itself, we have created that there they will see coupons, etc. So that there that need for coupon gets solved there only. So definitely it comes with few people who are anyways booking without coupon. They also, some percentage of them end up using the coupon, but that's fine. Again, everything.
The part that I'm more interested in here is the whole amount of engineering heavy lifting that needs to keep coming in motion. One, to set this kind of stuff up, And two, every time you need to make a change, you probably have to write a Jira ticket and somebody has to make this happen, right?
So at times a lot of things do happen in a modular way, which means our data science team, do basically the analytics team, which I just said. A lot of things have been done by codes written through them, and because that's it's like a modular sort of a thing.
Sure.
So we have created the code. The analytics team has created the code. The setup has been done through the product team, but those things that maybe we do some bit of minute changes around out of may not be 5, we need that move that number to 3, and those sort of configurability are there at our end.
So that configurabilities are so then I mean a certain amount of front end interfaces would also have to be created as part of the offering.
Correct, yes.
But that's kind of where I mean I don't know, some level of build versus buy gets involved, and if you have external solutions that are able to solve this for you, you might not want that dependency in product because obviously they have 20 other things to do.
Correct. So build versus buy is definitely a discussion for a lot of things, for marketing automation, and there are a lot of things which we can actually buy, but we have built internally. But yeah, depending on a lot of things, course. Maybe we do take those calls at different things.
And at this point, from a scale perspective, whatever you're doing, is there something which you're like on the fence of building in some sense? As part of the marketing structure, I mean, there's attribution, there is 30-day ROAS.
Yeah.
I don't know if the dashboards of these things are like really readily available, or have you built something custom around this?
No, so dashboards are pretty readily available. We have those tools, etc. internally. Some of the things which currently we are, I'll put it as a problem statement. I'm not just talking about a software assist. Something which we're trying is how can we get involved more in the post-purchase journey. When I say post-purchase, basically in-stay hotel experience.
Sure.
There is a lot of touch points there where people are actually visiting the hotel, staying in the product. There is a lot of opportunity around. Maybe one user has booked, maybe there are at least 2 or 3 or 4 people they have traveled. For me, only one user is the customer right now, but the other 2-3 people maybe was traveled with the group.
Sure.
They might have use cases which is beyond this group travel. Maybe they also have solo traveling, etc. How can I capture those users around it? And currently I'll say that is a big agenda on my charter right now. We have been doing certain hacky stuff right now, doing some bit of experiments, but yeah, that is something which is pretty important, and we are figuring out what's the best way to scale this up, and definitely a lot of product thinking is also going into it.
I would imagine a lot of it would end up circling to product. So Nikhil, as a growth professional who spent a meaningful amount of time with a unicorn which has had a fairly aggressive growth pace, what's been top 3 learnings that you've had over these years?
Some of it I'll say are pretty cliche. You might have heard that. Yeah, definitely that understanding the consumer need is pretty important. How deep can we go there, and that can be on various things. It's not just what specific problems our product solve for that consumer, that is, and how can we use that learning on everything. That is not only in our marketing communication, but how can we integrate with our service team, how can we integrate with our supply team, and can just be that torch bearer of the consumer thing. It's this is what our consumer needs. And a lot of time retention team thinks only around, let's say, marketing automation and nudges and all sort of things.
Sure.
But I think in true sense, maybe the scope is they should be the torchbearer of the customer, as I said. So they should be thinking around the overall product experience. How can, let's say, just for example, forget about the travel industry. For any consumer goods industry, a retention team should also have a say on the packaging of that product. That is a very important touch point.
Really? Okay.
So that is what the overall thinking from retention or an overall growth professional. How can we see the overall touch points of a consumer, not only restricted to a very marketing automation or let's say a Google, Facebook side of things for that matter, and that has been will gives you exponential results.
There's a lot of empowerment, and I wonder if most CEOs would see this in that light immediately. But sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. So well then, the last question: what keeps you excited as a growth professional today?
Creating impact on the consumers. If I see anything, any initiative or anything basically which me and my team has done, and that creates any impact in consumers, maybe it can be any notification which we have sent, any sort of campaign which we have done, let's say. And let's say when I see some people engaging with that, liking that, and maybe and that gives me, I'll say, goosebumps. Yeah, this is what we conceptualized and people liked it and has created some sort of impact in their life. And if something gets some bit of traction, people get talking about it. I meet some friend and they say, maybe they're talking about some initiative which our company has done, and maybe they've taken a note of it. I do take a lot of pride in that. Yeah.
Awesome. So for all the inputs you've shared today, Nikhil, I'm sure you'll have some friends reaching out to you and saying thanks for sharing these insights.
Thanks.
From my end, this has been a very, very interesting learning conversation. I'm quite impressed by the level of maturity that you've already crossed over. I think the most interesting bit about optimizing for the 30-day ROAS instead of a single day CAC.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this, Nikhil. I had a great time.
Thanks, Ankur. Same here. Thank you.
So that was one interesting conversation with Nikhil. He's had an 8-year journey with OYO, which is quite a long journey for a company which itself is 10 years old. And we've obviously all seen the kind of scale OYO has achieved. For me, a few things that really stood out which were interesting is the fact that while OYO has grown very, very aggressively, they've never lost sight of the discipline on the customer acquisition side of things. So a lot of investment has actually gone on the supply side of things and not on the customer demand, which is a revelation for me in some sense. Also, what stood out for me was the fact that they chose performance marketers who did not just understand the channels, but also had a certain level of business acumen to look at a 30-day ROAS as a metric, which essentially means that it's not just the install of the application or the first booking, which is an outcome KPI, but also how well people are repeating after their first instance. So that's an important insight which a lot of people tend to miss while they're trying to optimize for CAC and just ROAS at the first transaction level. So that was an insightful conversation for me, and I hope all of you got to learn something out of it as well. Thank you so much for the listen.